Aquarius 24. Man turning his back on passion and teaching from experience. Passion is the difference, really, between what we know and what we understand, on the one hand, and what we experience in life, on the other. So wherever this gap occurs between what we're doing and what we know we should be doing, then we experience passion. And so the reverse of that is something to think about, that the absence of passion would be peace and serenity. And we're discussing here turning our back on passion and letting people know that it's better and how to do that. It's very difficult to explain to somebody who's in their passion that they're off-center, because their passion is so overwhelming it seems like the right thing to do. I mean, the obvious example is when a young person is in love. They know that their lover is the meaning of their life, that their lover will last forever, that they'll never have any problems. This is it. This is my soulmate. They know that. That's a fact. It's not a fact at all, is it? It's a passion. And it's very difficult telling a businessman who's really on the road to success and making millions and so on, just telling him that he's off-center, he's disturbed by his passion. He won't listen. Or the other example where he's actually in bankruptcy and insolvency and everyone's coming at him and he's worried and angry and frightened, and it's another form of passion. And we get hooked on that. That's an addiction. Emotions are addictions. Food for thought, just an idea that was given to me a week or two ago. I like it. Emotions are addictions. And how do we move away from that? How do we move towards serenity, towards peacefulness as a way of life, a constant mode of being? Well, it's best to invest in the everyday and ordinary to calm down the sensitivities that we have. Because passions are representations of our sensitivities. And we're sensitive to the energetic chaos, the confusion, the extremes of ups and downs that we experience whenever we leave our home, our bedroom even, whenever we go out into the world, we're surrounded by all of these fractious emotions. And the best thing to do to settle those down is to relate to people in an ordinary way. Ordinary people in an ordinary way. Just ground yourself in relationship. And a secret is exposed then, that there is no such thing as an ordinary person. There is no general case. Every single person that you meet has their own story, and that's a fascinating story if you find it fascinating, and it's a profound wisdom if you can find the wisdom in it. And whether it's fascinating, whether it's wise, is not to do with them, it's to do with you. Whether you're looking for wisdom and whether you're looking for special in a person rather than general and ordinary. It's to do with our mode of perception. Everything is. Beauty is in the beholder's eye. But that's not only true of beauty, it's true of wisdom as well. It's in the heart of the beholder. A fascination in the beingness of the beholder. Everything that we perceive is our business. So if we want to perceive a person as ordinary and boring, that'll make us cynical. That'll make us restless for wanting something else. And most particularly that's the case with this young love. They look for something which doesn't exist and are disappointed because when they project their yearning ideal for what is the best they can imagine, it doesn't hold, it can't hold, it's false. So it's a disappointment, and that leads to cynicism. If you allow disappointment to pyramid up into a series of behaviors you get to expect to be disappointed in life, then the result is cynicism, and that's dark and self-fulfilling. We have to avoid cynicism, we have to avoid disappointments, and we do that by lowering our expectations on the one hand, heightening our perceptions on the other. If we look beneath the surface of any situation, there's gold to be found. But we have to actually have no prejudice, no sense of this is good and that's bad. Just what is the case, just noticing it very deeply indeed. And this moves us away from our cynicism, away from our passions, towards a sense of wonder and appreciation for everything. We can do it not only in relationship with people, we can do it in relationship to things, and especially nature. And that includes the weather and the green stuff that we see when we go out into the country, all of that. If we just look very, very sort of carefully at all of this green stuff, it's special. If you look at a rock from a distance, it looks like a boring piece of grey stuff that has no life to it. But you get up really close to it and you'll see all the algae, and they're rich in colour, all of them. And they exist on nothing more than the rainwater and the minerals in the rock. That's their food, and it's the first form of life. It's fascinating. And you just do it. I mean, just don't believe me, just do it. And you'll see that every single thing that's alive, even at the very minimal level, is absolutely entrancing. If you have the perceptual capacity to be entranced and fascinated and look for beauty and wisdom in everything, if you can do that, then you move towards serenity. Now, in this example, we're given to understand that when we've reached that state of turning our back on passion, on blame and guilt and anger and lust and all of those things, and move towards a sense of peaceful enjoyment of life itself, that requires us to show other people, to teach what we've learned. There's an implied duty when we know how to live. We need to show other people. And there's a difference between show and tell. If you tell other people how to live their lives, that will be perceived as intrusive. And in fact, it will be intrusive. It's not required of us to get very involved in the issues of other people. If people have issues, then our job really is to find them interesting and have some compassion and empathy and just be there and listen and show them what it's like not to have those issues. Just be serene, be peaceful in the presence of a passionate person. And that's the best healing that you can give them. Wordy explanations typically don't make much difference. And they bind you into issues when actually what we're trying to do is to be free of that, to turn our back on passions. When you've got this, when you've actually got that peace is really nice, and issues, they're not, they're fun when you're young and fascinating for a while, but eventually you kind of realize that there's a circle, a very predictable circle, the same old story. If you look at movies, you'll see the same thing there. All the movies are telling pretty much the same story, or there might be a few different versions of it. I read once somewhere that somebody has found there are only 7 stories. There are only 7 stories ever in the world. various examples like romance and the hero's quest and so on. And these 7 stories are what people are living out. And if you haven't actually come to terms with that story, then you're living that out. But once you've lived it once or twice or 3 times until you've actually understood that story, you don't have to do it anymore. You don't have to get involved in drama. And you can learn what it's like without stories, just observing the way life is and having no agenda about interpretation, just noticing it all. That's the path that you need to walk if you want to walk towards peace.